You lose respect, not when you fail, but when you try too hard to be seen. You've felt this before, haven't you? That strange moment when the more effort you put into being liked, the less people seem to value you. You speak more, explain more, give more, and somehow it backfires. Instead of admiration, you get indifference, or worse, quiet dismissal. It's confusing, almost unfair. I mean, you're doing everything right? You're showing interest, being helpful, trying to prove your worth. But something shifts in the way people look at you. It's subtle, but you feel it. That slight drop in respect. And the worst part is, you can't pinpoint exactly when it happened. There's no clear moment where things went wrong. It's more like a slow leak. One day, you're taken seriously. The next, you're tolerated. And you're left wondering what you did differently. So you try harder. You think maybe you just didn't do enough. Maybe you need to be more impressive, more available, more something. But that effort, that visible trying, starts to signal something you didn't intend at all. This is where things get uncomfortable. Because the truth is, trying too hard doesn't communicate value. It communicates need. And need, in social dynamics, is often interpreted as weakness. Not because it is weak, but because it times like dependency. Friedrich Nietzsche once suggested that power isn't just about strength, it's about perception. The will to power, he argued, isn't loud or desperate. It's quiet, self-contained, almost indifferent to approval. And that's what makes it compelling. When you chase validation, you place yourself below it. You make other people the judges of your worth. And without realizing it, you hand over your authority. It's like saying, please decide if I matter. And people, they feel that. It's weird. Really weird. Because logically, effort should be respected. But socially, excessive effort often raises suspicion. Why are you trying so hard? What are you compensating for? That's the unspoken question running through people's minds. And you might not even notice how you're doing it. Over-explaining your opinions, laughing a little too quickly, agreeing just to keep the peace, even offering help when it's not asked for. It feels like kindness, but it can come across as seeking approval. Let's be honest for a second. When someone seems too eager to impress you, how do you feel? A bit uncomfortable, right? Maybe even slightly cautious, because it doesn't feel grounded. It feels performative. And that subtle tension creates distance. Now flip it. Think about someone who doesn't try to impress at all. They speak calmly. They don't rush to prove themselves. They're not constantly seeking agreement. There's something about them, something steady. You respect them, almost automatically. That's not an accident. It's psychological. Humans are wired to associate scarcity with value. When something feels abundant, constantly available, always trying to prove itself, it loses its edge. It becomes predictable, and predictability rarely commands respect. But when someone holds back, not in a cold way, but in a composed, self-assured way, it creates curiosity. You start leaning in, you start wondering, and that curiosity builds respect, because it feels like there's something deeper beneath the surface. So the real issue isn't effort itself. It's time's visible effort, driven by insecurity. That's the key difference. Quiet effort, grounded in self-respect, builds value. But loud effort, driven by the need to be accepted, slowly erodes it. And yeah, I know, this can feel frustrating, because it almost sounds like you're being told not to care. But that's not it. It's not about becoming indifferent or distant. It's about shifting where your validation comes from. Right now, if you're trying too hard, it's likely because you've tied your self-worth to how others respond to you. Their approval feels like confirmation. Their disapproval feels like rejection. So naturally, you adjust yourself, constantly. But here's the thing. That constant adjustment makes you unstable in other people's eyes. You become hard to read, not because you're mysterious, but because you're reactive. And people don't respect what feels easily influenced. Respect, in many ways, is built on perceived stability, the sense that you are who you are, regardless of external reactions, that you don't bend too quickly, that you don't rush to prove yourself every time you enter a room. So when you try too hard, you unintentionally signal the opposite. You signal that your identity is flexible, dependent, negotiable. And once people sense that, they begin to treat you accordingly, often without even realizing it. Now, let's pause for a second, because this is important. This isn't about becoming cold or detached. It's about becoming time-centered. There's a difference, a big one. One pushes people away, the other draws them in, naturally. When you're centered, you don't feel the need to fill every silence. You don't rush to prove your intelligence, your value, your worth. You allow space. And in that space, something interesting happens. People start projecting value onto you. It sounds strange, I know, but it's true. When you don't over-explain, people assume depth. When you don't seek approval, people assume confidence. When you don't chase attention, people become more aware of your presence. So the strategy here isn't to stop trying. It's to stop showing times that you're trying to be accepted. There's a subtle shift. You still improve yourself, still grow, still engage. But you do it from a place of internal validation, not external need. Start by noticing your impulses. That urge to explain yourself more than necessary. Pause. That instinct to agree just to be liked. Question it. That need to respond immediately. To prove you're attentive. Slow it down. Give your words more weight by using fewer of them. Let your actions speak without constant explanation. Allow people to come to their own conclusions about you, instead of guiding them every step of the way. And, most importantly, get comfortable with the idea that not everyone will immediately understand or appreciate you. That discomfort you feel when you're not validated, sit with it. Don't rush to fix it. Because, ironically, that restraint, that quiet confidence, that willingness to not be instantly liked, is exactly what begins to build real respect. It's a shift from seeking approval to embodying self-respect. And once that shift happens, something changes in how people respond to you. Not because you demanded it, but because you no longer needed to. And that is where real power begins. If you look closely, history is filled with people who understood this, sometimes without even explaining it. Take Friedrich Nietzsche himself. He wasn't widely accepted in his time. In fact, he was often ignored, misunderstood, even dismissed. But he didn't dilute his ideas to gain approval. He wrote with intensity, with conviction, without constantly trying to make himself more palatable. And for a long time, it cost him recognition. But over time, that very refusal to conform became the source of his influence. His work didn't beg for attention. It demanded interpretation. Or think about Niccolò Machiavelli. His ideas were controversial, even uncomfortable. He didn't try to soften them to be liked. He observed human nature as it was, not as people wished it to be. And because of that, his insights endured. There's a pattern here. The individuals who command long-term respect are rarely the ones who try the hardest to be accepted in the moment. They're the ones who hold their ground, who express themselves without constantly adjusting to the room's approval. And yeah, I know what you might be thinking, but that's them. Philosophers, thinkers, people in history. What about everyday life? What about your job, your relationships, your social circles? Does this still apply? It does, maybe even more than you realize, because these dynamics play out in small, quiet interactions every single day. In conversations, in meetings, in the way people respond to your presence. Respect isn't declared, it's inferred. Imagine two people in a room. One speaks constantly, trying to prove their knowledge, filling every silence, making sure they're noticed. The other speaks less, but when they do, it's measured, calm, deliberate. Who do you instinctively take more seriously? It's not about intelligence. It's about perception. The second person doesn't feel the need to prove themselves in every moment. And that restraint, that control, signals confidence. It creates a kind of psychological weight that people can feel. This is where psychological mastery comes in. Because understanding this isn't enough. You have to internalize it. You have to shift how you see yourself and how you relate to other people's opinions. Right now, if you're trying too hard, it's likely because you're operating from a place of uncertainty. You're not fully convinced of your own value, so you look for confirmation outside yourself. And every interaction becomes a subtle attempt to earn that confirmation. But here's the shift. And it's not easy. You have to stop treating other people's reactions as a measure of your worth. Their approval becomes information, not validation. Their disapproval becomes feedback, not rejection. It's a quiet mental reframe, but it changes everything. Because once you're no longer dependent on their response, your behavior naturally stabilizes. You stop overcompensating. You stop adjusting yourself in real time. And when that happens, people notice. Not consciously. Not like they sit there analyzing you, but they feel it. They feel that you're not trying to extract something from them. And that absence of need, it's powerful. There's also something else, something a bit uncomfortable to admit. People often respect those who seem willing to walk away. Not in a dramatic, aggressive way, but in a calm, grounded sense of independence. When you don't appear desperate to be included, to be approved, to be validated, it changes the dynamic. You're no longer chasing the interaction. You're participating in it. And that difference is subtle, but it's everything. Think about conversations where you felt in control, where you weren't trying to impress. You were just present. Notice how differently people responded. There's less tension, less effort, more natural engagement. Now compare that to moments where you felt the need to prove yourself. The energy changes, doesn't it? There's a slight pressure, a sense of urgency, and people pick up on that, even if they can't explain why. So the goal isn't to become silent or withdrawn. It's to become selective, to choose when you speak, how you engage, and what you give your energy to. Not every moment requires your full effort. Not every silence needs to be filled. And yeah, this can feel risky at first, because you're used to maintaining control through effort. Trying harder feels like safety. It feels like you're doing something, but in reality, it often creates the very outcome you're trying to avoid. Respect grows in the spaces where you don't force it, where you allow your presence, your words, your actions to stand without constant reinforcement. It's slower, quieter, but much more stable. As you practice this, you'll start to notice something interesting. People begin to lean in more. They ask more questions. They pay closer attention. Not because you demanded it, but because you created space for curiosity. And that's where advanced application comes in. In high-stakes situations, negotiations, leadership roles, important conversations, this principle becomes even more critical. The person who appears most composed often holds the most influence. Not the loudest voice, not the one trying hardest to convince, but the one who remains steady, who doesn't rush, who doesn't over-explain. There's a kind of authority in that stillness that words alone can't replicate. You see this in leaders who command respect without constantly asserting it. In individuals who don't chase approval but still receive it. It's not magic. It's the result of internal alignment, of not needing to prove what you already believe. So, where does this leave you? It leaves you with a choice. You can continue trying to earn respect through visible effort, through proving, explaining, adjusting, and risk slowly losing it. Or you can shift inward and start building it from a place of self-assurance. This doesn't mean you'll never feel the urge to try harder. You will. That instinct doesn't disappear overnight. But now, you'll notice it. You'll catch yourself mid-sentence, mid-action, and pause. And that pause, that awareness, is where change begins. Because respect isn't something you chase. It's something you allow to form around you when you stop chasing it. When you stop trying to control how you're perceived and start focusing on how grounded you feel within yourself. And yeah, it's a bit of a paradox. The less you try to be respected, the more it naturally happens. Not instantly, not dramatically, but steadily, quietly, in a way that lasts. So next time you feel that urge to prove, to impress, to overextend, just pause for a second. Ask yourself, am I acting from confidence or from the need to be seen? And if it's the second, pull back just a little. Not to withdraw, but to recalibrate. Because the moment you stop trying too hard is often the moment people start taking you seriously.